After over 10 years of hiring in the Philippines, even though I grew up in the Philippines, I'm Filipina, I always meet someone who says I hired from the Philippines and I always had a bad experience. Now, it's not totally their fault. There are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of people that are not telling the truth on their resumes. And honestly, there are also people who don't know how to manage teams. It doesn't even matter if they're Filipino or not. But Philippines is a very special place to hire and outsource. They're the best English-speaking people in Asia, and the huge wave of outsourcing from business process outsourcing companies or BPO companies, a lot of the companies in the States throwing their customer support teams in the Philippines, big companies such as Airbnb, Western Union, PayPal, AT&T, Verizon, all of these factors make for a really huge talent pool for people that are ready to serve an international market. But because of a lot of people's bad experiences hiring from the Philippines, including mine, I have determined 6 common mistakes about hiring in the Philippines. These are some of the hiring mistakes I have personally made and some of the mistakes that some of my friends and clients and even strangers that have just met me share with me. And because of these mistakes, they were a little bit traumatized about hiring in the Philippines, or they felt that they will probably not do it alone. Of course, at the end of the day, the big mistake is trying to do it all by yourself and trying to do it alone if you're not an expert at this. Just like with any position or any role in the company, you as a business owner, you're not a full-time recruiter, you're not a natural hirer. And even if you are an intuitive person or a good reader of personality, there are still a lot of things that play into the process of hiring someone. You have to test them properly, you have to know their proficiency, you have to get to know their personality and how they even fit in your company. So a lot of these things aside, let me tell you about the top 6 hiring mistakes about hiring in the Philippines. Number 1 is hiring too cheap. Now, when I entered the freelancing industry in the Philippines, when I was living in the Philippines in 2007, I was getting paid as an SEO writer for about $3 to $5 per SEO article. So there was no AI back then, so I was writing this article from scratch. Typically, this article would have 500 words and I would have to pepper in a lot of the keywords. But then the article has to make sense and the article has to still be written very well, because if it's bad article, then it will still be bad for the website. So I did a lot of that. In fact, I even had a gig where I was tasked to write 10,000 words a day. So that was pretty crazy. But at that time, if someone could be making $3 to $5 an hour, or maybe even less than an hour, to be honest, it took me 15 minutes to make those articles, but it just took time to research them. It would be insane to expect that you will still be paying $3 to $5 an hour 17 or 20 years later. So right now, there is a huge range of acceptable pay for virtual assistants, creatives, graphic designers, video editors, and of course, roles such as operations manager, project manager, client success managers. These roles are much more expensive. Managerial roles are obviously much more expensive, and you cannot just make the mistake of Googling what is the minimum wage in the Philippines and trying to base your pay off of that. First of all, the job that they're doing is not a minimum wage type of job. If it's a janitorial job, or maybe if they're flipping burgers, that could be a minimum wage job. But the fact that they're handling some tasks for you virtually, the fact that they have to even have their own computer and have their own internet connection, the acceptable range would be somewhere between $9 to maybe $18 an hour. This is like a very common range that would still be a very good opportunity for someone living in the Philippines. So of course, the more specialized they are, the more higher level they are. They can charge as much as possible. So it really depends on the freelancer, how they are also packaging their services and their offers and the solutions that they're providing to their clients. Now, being cheap is not just all about salary. Another thing that you need to think about is providing benefits. Filipinos are very loyal people, and if you give us good benefits that our families can also benefit from, we will be so loyal to you. We will love you. We will love working with you. You will hear a lot of stories about how loyal Filipinos are all over the world. This is why we make great hospitality workers, we make great nurses, and if you ask my husband, he will also tell you that he loves his Filipino wife. me. I would definitely recommend not being cheap with benefits as well. If there is a way for you to provide health insurance, life and accident insurance, mental health, counseling, a lot of different types of wellness benefits, maybe you can sponsor their gym membership, maybe you can sponsor a supplement pack. These are some of the things that we do actually in our company in Proximity Outsourcing, because we really believe that retention is not just in the client side, it's also in the employee side. You need to take care of both sides. Last thing is, do not be cheap or do not be stingy with PTOs, paid time offs, holidays, or maybe, you don't need to make them work for the full 8 hours on certain days of the year. Maybe you can give them a half day break if it's their birthday, or maybe you can give them the Thanksgiving week off just as a bonus. You know what? As long as they're working well and they're serving your business well, my recommendation is do not be cheap with handing out benefits, bonuses, and PTOs. Make sure that you're taking care of them and you really care about them more than just the salary. Because our culture as Filipinos, we really see it if you care about us. We see it if you see us more than just the help. And that feeling is very deep and very lasting. Don't get me wrong, I've been the help for so long. I have served clients from all over the world. In my events company even, I would wipe floors, I would tidy up chairs, I would clean stages. I was the help for such a long time. But when I was in that role at that time, I had certain clients and I had certain bosses that were very nice to me. They would bring me an extra can of Sprite when they see that I'm tired, or they would make me a sandwich or something like that, or a guy would a male colleague would walk me home if we all go home late at night because I was in the events industry. I remember these different types of a show of kindness, and it definitely helped me become more loyal to my colleagues, to my coworkers, and to the bosses and clients that I worked with in the past. And I still love them and I still remember these people up to now. So don't be cheap, not just about the salary, benefits, and time off as well. So if all of these things are a little bit overwhelming for you, always remember you have the option to not do this alone. Hit us up at proximityoutsourcing.com if you need help. Number 2 is not defining the role clearly. So this is a mistake that is typically made by someone who's not really used at hiring or recruitment. You don't know how to write a proper job description, and you don't know how to properly articulate your day-to-day tasks, someone's responsibilities, someone's expectations, and what their previous experience should be so that they can perform well in the job that you're hiring for. Another thing is you not knowing how to properly create a bonus structure if the role calls for a particular bonus structure. So this is also a mistake that you could make. And honestly, if you're not communicating this properly and not defining the role clearly, the tendency is we will just be looking at the salary and if this thing is even worth it. They cannot, or we as Filipinos cannot fully see your vision. Obviously, we cannot define it for you, but we're really good at understanding certain texts or certain instructions or certain types of communication where it's clearly laid out for us. And then I would also say encourage us or encourage your Filipino teammates to also speak up and give their input. But I will give you more information about that. Number 3 mistake is skipping proper vetting or tests. So I don't know wherever you are right now, but after the pandemic, the world has experienced recession, economic recession. Inflation has been very high. A lot of people have been laid off. And the economy has just been in a very weird state of unrest, but also a negative type of being unexpected. So it's you don't know what's coming. You kind of know it's not going to be good, especially if you are part of the lower middle class or the middle class. So that is another rabbit hole altogether. But because the wealth gap has increased so much since the pandemic, a lot of people in the middle class are getting more and more nervous about their future. And so because of that, a lot of people have been looking for jobs and better opportunities. And there are people that in their job search would do anything just to get the job. So unfortunately, some people would lie on their resumes, or they would use AI in a certain way so that their resume would match the job description, even if it's not really true to what they really did in their past roles. And because of that, it's going to be very hard for you to properly vet them or to properly ask questions about it. And then the other thing is, if you're hiring specifically from the Philippines, if you do not have a way to call their past employers, to email them, to text them, to reach them, to do proper vetting, to claim obtain a police clearance and know what this process even looks like, that might put you in a very disadvantaged state. And so another thing for you to do is that you can also deploy certain tests. So if you need someone to know high level or ClickFunnels or Kit or any platform that you require in the role that you're hiring for, you have to properly test them. And so what I recommend you doing is when you're interviewing your Filipino remote professional, give them that task and tell them to do the task with their screen shared. And this is really the only way for you to know if they actually know what they're talking about. Because in the Philippines, times could be tougher compared to the rest of the world economically, because Philippines is already a developing country. Most people are poor. And because of that, a lot of people could be desperate for jobs. And so just because of that economic basis, you have to be extra good at vetting all of these Filipino candidates that you have. And so do proper vetting, do certain tests, and interview really well. If you don't know how to interview well, check out that video on this channel. I was talking about the top 3 questions that you should ask in a job interview. You can definitely just watch that video, list down all these questions, and use that as your guide once you interview your Filipino remote professional. Now, mistake number 4. Sometimes, even when you land a really, really good Filipino remote professional, you have a tendency to micromanage them. So this is not your fault, but there are tons of reasons why you do this. First of all, your systems might not be there. Second, you probably don't trust them and it's your first time to hire for a role for someone to do from the other side of the world. And another thing is you don't know how to train them. And so obviously this is not all resting on the fault or the side of the owner or you as a business owner. It's also not the fault of your Filipino remote professional. But the thing is, if you have any sort of even an uneasiness that comes with a cultural difference, and if you hired a Filipino who is not very high on the English proficiency skill, then the tendency is there is an underlying feeling of distrust. And because of that, you probably tend to micromanage. So that is one thing that I really want you to avoid. I want you to set up your systems, set up your SOPs, make sure that you onboard them properly, that they understand. By the way, sometimes when you talk to Filipinos and a lot of Asian cultures, and after you mention an instruction, you ask them, okay, did you understand everything? A lot of them will say yes. But if they did not, they will still say yes, because for them, it's embarrassing to say no. They're going to feel stupid. So you have to really ask more questions and say, if you can change something about this, or if you can improve something about this, what would it be? Try to really get their feedback or build up their confidence more, saying things like, hey, you're hired for this position because I believe in your intelligence and I believe in your knowledge and I really, really value your input. So that would be my other little tip for not having to micromanage your remote professional. And next is I would really, really encourage you to do time tracking. There's tons of time tracking software and platforms. I will recommend using any of those. Hubstaff, WorkSnaps, or Time Doctor. Those are some of the famous ones. Time track, not because you want to micromanage, but because if you need to check something, then you can just easily do it. You can look back and see, oh, it took you 5 hours to do this task. It would only take me 2. Can you show me why? And then you can have this open communication with them where they can explain to you what their challenges are and what their roadblocks are, and then you can fix it together. Number 5 mistake when hiring Filipinos is you're not familiar with the culture. So just like any other country and any other culture, Filipino culture is very unique, just like any culture out there. Let me give you some cliff notes as a Filipina and as someone who grew up in the Philippines. So Filipinos are, like I said, very loyal people, and we're religious, we're Catholics. We believe in God and we're scared of God. I believe that a lot of Filipinos, honestly, because of this closeness to God and religiosity, spirituality, I believe that a lot of Filipinos are really trustworthy and honest and inherently good. A lot of Filipinos are not very good open communicators, but we're good at communicating in other ways, like body language or facial expressions. We also have an innate feeling of happiness every time we serve someone. And this is why a lot of Filipinos are hired to become hospitality workers, nurses, domestic workers, nannies. There's a reason why these are the jobs that we do. We're naturally good at taking care of other people. And honestly, it makes me so happy if someone tells me, hey, you really helped me with that. I'm so grateful you made that happen. So selfishly, honestly, that makes me super happy every time I hear that. And especially in my business in proximity outsourcing, if someone tells me, hey, Carla, you really made my life better. The project manager you hired was so good and my business has been blowing up since, that makes me super happy. So we are a service oriented culture. Some negatives of our culture. So I think I already shared this with you. We have like a saving face type of culture where we get embarrassed easily and we feel shameful if we do something wrong, especially if it's something that other people know or like everyone in the Slack channel knows. That makes us feel bad. The other is a lot of Filipinos, unfortunately, if they do something bad in your business, and even if obviously they did not mean to do it, they just made a mistake, but if they feel like you were so upset by what they did, they'll just resign because they can't bear to see your face and they're just so ashamed and so embarrassed. So unfortunately, this has happened to some of my friends. They were just like, oh my God, she wasn't so bad that I was going to fire her. She just made a few mistakes and I had word with her and I was just trying to give her feedback, but then she suddenly resigned. And so this has happened to some of my friends and it's really shocking. And this is why you really have to have a conversation when you hire a Filipino remote professional, that you have to build them up and you have to make them really believe in their role and what they're doing and how important they are to the company. Another thing that also my husband sometimes complains about is sometimes you don't answer questions straight or directly. Like if you're asking a yes or no question, we will answer like something else. So for example, if my husband says, hey, have you washed the car? I will say, oh, I was at Pilates for too long. So obviously I didn't, right? But immediately I'm trying to justify it. So it is funny to me now, and we have adjusted and my husband would always call me out like very kindly, but also firmly so that I can improve how I communicate. So sometimes these little moments happen in your team. So I just want you to give your team feedback kindly, but also firmly, and guide them towards what could be done better next time. So just a little communication challenges. So just keep that in mind. And when you're hiring, include a part of your onboarding in addressing that. And of course, I think there are other things that really make our culture unique. So you can just ChatGPT or Google those and you can deal with those. But in my opinion, those are the highlights. And lastly, the last mistake that a lot of my friends make when hiring Filipinos or Filipino remote professional is not giving any growth plans or not giving the remote professionals a ladder to improve or to ascend in their business. And so if someone is hired as a VA, they don't want to be a VA forever. Very likely, they don't want to be a VA forever. So is there a way for them to advance in their role? Is there a way for them to improve? Is there a way for us to serve you more, to serve you better, to be more important in your company? That is really key. So I already mentioned with you how loyal our culture is. If you give us a clear plan to help us become better at life, better in our role, and be a better servant to you and a better tool for your business, honestly, that would make our day. Also, don't forget that all of your Filipino remote professionals, they're humans too, and they're Filipino first. Their family will always come first, and what they can give to their family will always be a priority for them. So ask your remote professional, ask your VA, ask your project manager, ask your graphic designer, video editor, operations manager, hey, I really like how we're working. I really value you. Is there a way that I or my company can help you in other areas of your life? So in my company, Proximity Outsourcing, we help all of our remote professionals get paperwork to get visas so that they can visit other countries, get paperwork so that they can loan a car or they can be approved for a house loan, or if they need a certain amount of money, another loan because someone had a very high medical expense. And we assist them as well with any like bereavement assistance if someone passed away from their family. So be more involved in what's happening in their family and in their personal lives, because that means a lot to us. So don't be stingy with your love and care as well. And honestly, if you give that to your Filipino remote team, they'll be so loyal, they'll help you grow, and they will be your ride or die forever. Trust me. Most of my teammates have been with me for more than 5 years, and I'm very lucky to have them. And I'm very, very lucky that I'm also Filipino and I understand what matters to them. And they have helped me grow my company. They've helped me reclaim my free time and live the life that I want and choose the tasks in my business that I want to do, which help me love my business more. So those are the 6 hiring mistakes that a lot of people typically run into when they're hiring from the Philippines. Once again, if all of this feels so overwhelming for you, send us a DM or visit our site at proximityoutsourcing.com and book a call, and we'll happy to help you out.